Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar here, solo edition on a Tuesday. Tom is out and about this week, so just going to have it like we did a couple weeks ago, where I'm going to roll through my thoughts on the slate ahead here in Europe. Last event before the U.S. Open, so lot to talk about and lead up. Handful of guys still coming over from their results at the U.S. Open qualifying. KLM Open has been probably the longest running DP World Tour event out there, except the venue changes through the years. So we're getting back at the International this week, where Guido Migliazzi was triumphant on our betting cards last year over Joe Dean and Marcus Kinholt in a playoff. Last week, I don't want to forget about and give shout out to Nikolai van Dellinghausen, one of the best DP World Tour names out there, for his Sunday 65 to win over there in Austria. Wrighton almost did it again with that Sunday 60. Schneider was right there. So there was a pretty decent event. Betting card wise, John Catlin missed a place by 2 strokes there. Maybe a familiar name we'll talk about again this week. So I think it's super intriguing. Last big DP World Tour event, obviously, before kind of the major stretch, and then of course the Open lead up and beyond, which is DP World Tour season. Before we get in, I'm going to give a shout out to all of our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets the Mix across Mayo Media Network. Rate, review, subscribe. It goes a long way. Always appreciate the YouTube comments. Tom and I both try to go back to make sure we listen for feedback, and if there's any questions we can answer in there too. So super appreciative of all your guys' support when you're giving us the love on all the platforms. Like, for real, that matters a lot to us. So going into the week ahead here, so if we start off kind of with what the odds look like, Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson truly has kind of basically planted himself at the top of the odds boards week in and week out. I wouldn't call this, it's tough by DP World Tour stake, weaker field, in the sense we have him, we have Hautong, we have Juice, Nakajima, all short of 30 to 1 this week. I mean, Jordan Smith is the one missing from the regulars that we have gotten recently. But I mean, DP World Tour these days, like, this is probably an average, if not above average field in some ways, until the PGA Tour guys come back and start making their way in the European fields. This is what we have, and we take advantage when we can. Last week, bet Hautong, he was great first round. After that, kind of slowed up. So for me, I'm just not into really trusting maybe a ton of these guys. I mean, my betting style often is more places or long shots with it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Nørgaard Peterson seems like, a really, really strong player. I want to see a win. Hautong's going to be on the PGA Tour. Juice Luton, I just really don't bet. Even, in events where it's weaker or going to be ball striking driven, he's just not proven to be somebody on Sunday for me. And ultimately, I land decently down for my betting card. Guys that popped, I mean, Wrighton, how do you not trust Wrighton, right now with what he's playing? This course, we've seen it twice. We saw it with Sergio beating Nikolai back in 2019, and then last year with Guido. Kind of two different, renditions. One, power-driven maybe a sense, with those two guys having really good ball striking last year. Could kind of spray and pray, but needed really dynamite irons when you got it. So I have a little bit of a combination of both on my betting card. But Wrighton, the power that he possesses, clearly the ability to score. Brandon Stone, ton of ball striking for him, continues. Ewan Ferguson doesn't get the same price respect, but he's been darn good, I think, so far this year, and maybe plays into his favor a little bit more when you can need those type of irons. Jaden Trey Scaper off of a top 5 last week for him. Third one of the season. He's been sneaky pretty good so far. A win for him could vault him, at the age of 24 over to the States, and he'd be probably pretty dynamite, in a way, I think, with his ball striking if it continues. Bairstow was the one. Sam Bairstow we talk about quite a bit on this program, right, where he seems to have just a really strong, consistent off the tee game. Irons fire, he's going to be in there. I mean, we look at 10th, 11th, 9th, then a couple poor performances with a miscut 43, and 4 top 25s in a row. Cool putter, basically cost him in Sudal. I mean, he opened with a 72, found his way into T16. I mean, that to me, like, I don't know. In price sensitive wise, like, he would have followed up last week. I said I would probably bet him at 28 to 1. Here I am with a number longer, and I don't think I'm pulling the trigger. Potentially at a course that could fit him too. Like, I don't know. I waver on this quite a bit with him, so I'm okay skipping there. John Perry and Angel Aora caught my eyes too. Aora more power driven. Perry, I thought, coming off that PGA Championship, played awesome, and wasn't totally shocked by that. I see a lot of love for Sebastian Soderberg. Do we have the Sunday scar tissue? Probably, right? I mean, blowing that, what was that, the Mix Open in his home country, pretty bad. 8th last time out. Irons are really, really good. Numbers still decent there. Ultimately, I'm landing on, a guy that is so tough to pin down of motivation, form, withdrew last week, has withdrawn, 2 events ago. And in between those is a second and a T16 for Sean Crocker. Like, what is Sean Crocker? I don't know. I mean, he has, in his last 25 starts, 3 top podium finishes, top 3s, and then littered with pretty much nothing else. 3 other top 25s. But at his peak, he's so good. And, I mean, I think, again, his motivation is maybe pure interest is tough. I mean, he opened and closed with 66s at Rinkfin his last time out. When he played at the KLM Open last year, he was 2nd through 36 holes. And, dynamite irons for me from him, like, it can get very clinical from an iron standpoint on his end, but also possesses an ability with the power too. I'm just such a sucker for a golfer like him that I think has the ceiling and potentially still price discovery. 60 to 1 this week. You can probably find him even 65s out there. I just think Sean Crocker is somebody that at this point, if there's a little bit of life and good health and a decent number, like, I don't even mind him like in a Scottish Open against a PGA Tour field. I think he's that good, when he's kind of firing. So Sean Crocker to me is first on the betting card at 60 to 1. Second up is going to be Oliver Lindell. Oliver Lindell, golfer I don't think I have bet this year in his rookie season on the DP World Tour. He was so consistent last year on the Challenge Tour. Ended the season with 9 top 12s in a row. Did not have a win, earned his card just through consistency. Came out 2 top 25s, first 2 events on the DP World Tour, and then went cold. Pretty cold. In the summer. I mean, cold is maybe relative, 3-4 missed cuts for him. But now at the Turkish Airlines Open and forward, 3 top 25s in a row. Irons are spectacular. Putter hasn't been great despite those finishes for him. And off the tee, he's not a super long guy. He's going to probably be more the way Guido played it last year. I mean, Kinholt was in the mix too. Kinholt was a bit more accurate, not distance-wise off the tee. So Lindell, I'm just betting on this stretch of irons. 3 straight events with really, really good irons. Clearly was awesome on the Challenge Tour last year too. Only 26 years old in his professional career, does not have any wins. Actually, that could be a lie. 2016, 2 Nordic Golf League wins for him. So if he's 26, he turned pro that year. So we're looking at a 17-year-old winning twice early on after turning professional. For him, I just think, matter of time to really get into the mix a little bit more. Last week in Austria, he was 4 rounds in the 60s. Sudal saw him, with 65 in round 3, kind of fell down that leaderboard with Sunday 74. And then in Turkey, very consistent all the way too. I just think those irons are something that I'm very impressed with right now and willing to get in, while his price, I would say, kind of came out a good bit from when we started the year. 70 to 1 you can find for Oliver Lindell. He would be second for me on the betting card. And actually, I skipped over another golfer to me in this range, 65s, 2. I have a trio kind of all in here, and I mentioned off the top, John Catlin just missed placing last week, opening a bit slow, closing great. So he opened with a 71, then went 65, 66, 67. I think John Catlin's a really good golfer. I do. He's 34 years old. He's been around the block, right? He was, a dominant player on the Asian tour, won 3 times in a 2-year stretch on the European tour. Pops over to Asia and live, and I don't know what you think of a golfer that plays that way, right? He wins twice early in 2024 and then does well in Asia, Open Championship top 20, and then live. I don't know if he's just happy he's been able to play T44, T39 so far this year. But showing up when it matters, when status is in question, I think that's something that's super important. For him to have that T8 and then maybe get a chance to, pretty much have to fight into the top 120 for the DP World Tour to give a card and have some, security of what's going to happen next year. He was in the field for Live. He was in also the field for the DP World Tour this event. I think on Instagram he's posting he's in Europe. So that to me, because Live is in Virginia. So Catlin seems to be teeing it up on the DP World Tour, 65-1. Again, a golfer who has ability to do really well in all buckets. I mean, last year at the Open Championship, gained in all 4. Is going to be more accuracy driven, but has a dynamite short game. Was positive with the irons last week. I just think really high of John Catlin, and old school John Catlin at a course potentially that didn't have to be overpowered was somebody that I love. So 65-1 for him. So it's 3 golfers here in the mid range. Others I looked at, of course, Guido coming back to where he won last year. Honestly, I thought he was pretty good in the Sudal Open outside of round 3, where it was almost like driver yips. He was hitting the ball 220 into the trees like 4 times that round. Thankfully, Sunday came back and played well there. I want it for Guido. Prices, it's probably priced in that he won here last year, of course. U.S. Open qualifier. Thurston Lawrence, been terrible on the PGA Tour. Comes over, does well. First event back. I totally can see it. I mean, he's been a killer for, 8 years or something in the DP World Tour. So you trust him when he's in the mix, and I can see him coming over and definitely jumping right into contention. Long shots. I'm moving quicker on this show. Let's see. We're probably, 12 minutes in. I'll probably only end up being about a 20-minute show here as we go through. But if we're looking here, so next up, I'm going to have to go down the board. Quite a bit down the board. We're going to find an old friend for us here. One truly OG. If we're betting DP World Tour, we were betting Lucas Bjerregaard. Brought him up recently on a show because there was rumors that he played in the media section of the Masters. And for me, he's been off the planet, right? I mean, he was somebody who was actually good on the Challenge Tour last year, right? He had 4 top 10s, a second at the Danish Golf Championship when he popped up on the DP World Tour, has a card this year and has done nothing. Best finish was T59 in his first 12 starts. Then he goes T24, miscut, T17, and last week at the Austria Open, he was 64, 69, 68 to close, was slow out of the gates with a 71. Irons looked good off the tee, looked really good for him. I mean, peak Bjerregaard. We look at 3 top 25s in a major in 2019. That was amazing time period for him. He was such a strong golfer and really led it from an off the tee and approach standpoint. I thought honestly his career would have gone a lot different. I thought he could have played substantially on the PGA Tour and done well with his ball striking, and just hasn't really worked out for him. I'm still super keen on when we get a little bit of life, and clearly he played really good. I mean, he's only still 33. Played really good last year on the Challenge Tour. I'm willing to bet on him at longer odds. I mean, we can get him, Bjerregaard right now, 270-1. Top 10, you can get that 18-1. Top 5, 45. So he's definitely the first one for me. And then second up in this one, this is some digging here. Nicholas Kolzarts. So this is somebody who, I mean, like betting Kolzarts in 2025 feels insane. He is only 42. He's really not that old, relatively speaking. Of course, such a good career in the early, mid 2000s for him, but kind of a complete fall off over the last 4 or 5 years. But we think of where Guido won, right? Guido was a winner at the Le Golf National, and 2019 really like an incredibly surprising victory for Nicholas Kolzarts. Tons of really good irons. Off the tee was awesome that year. He only had, I think, 5 top 20s, and that win was, at some deep odds. And he's starting to show those signs. Last year, he had 1 second place finish, no other top 20s. Year before, exact same thing. Both of them at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. So definitely keep him on the radar there. But here he comes off of a 17th in Turkey, miscut Sudal, and then a T42 at the Austrian Open. But irons are completely firing. And last year's mix of just being really, really good with the irons was what you needed. And what Kolzarts had was an opening 65 and then a closing 66 last week in Austria. 2 rounds right up there with the rounds of the day. And then in the middle, just sandwiched a couple 73s between there. When I'm looking at a long shot, somebody who is 300 to 1 as well, again, it's just these little flashes. 50 to 1 top 5, 20 to 1 top 10. For him, that's something that I'm pretty intrigued by, of a golfer who obviously has a wealth of experience among contention, and I wouldn't shy away from him when he's in the mix on a Sunday. Even at his age. We just saw Brandt Snedeker, another, Ryder Cup captain, just end up, having some of the best golf of his life at the Memorial last week. Like, there's some crazy. Luke Donald was almost the first round leader at the PGA Championship. Like, maybe there's some type of captain like pride. Molinari playing awesome. So I think there's just so much to be interested in Kolzarts at that number. And then lastly, if this turns into a power fest, right? If we're left with who hits the longest, which again, that was a little bit of what happened in 2019. Golfer caught my eye last week. Daniel Gale, Australia, out of Australia, 29 years old. He's playing on the DP World Tour, I believe through, I don't know if it was through Q School or being, up there on the Order of Merit. I honestly am not 100% sure how he has his card. He's gotten 10 starts on the DP World Tour this year. Best of it was last week at the Austria Open. He hits it a mile, honestly. He keeps up with Wilco, keeps up with the longest guys in the field. And last week he showed an incredible putter. Finished T17, 4 rounds in the 60s. That's only his 3rd made cut of the year. No, that's a lie. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th made cut on the DP World Tour of the year. Last year he won on Australian Tour. He was 2nd and 4th, also 4 other top 25s for him. Best events for him. I mean, he was a 2-time winner. He won the 2023 back there. Pretty much just been a lifer on that tour before getting some status over on the DP World Tour. And again, this combination of super long distance, then ability to putt, it's a little bit different of the grain that I'm going into with the betting card, but somebody who's 400 to 1, and had a bit of a life there and has a skill set that separates at this distance or at these odds with his distance. I think it's something that's super, super intriguing for me. So 400 to 1, again, top 10, 28 to 1. I'm definitely intrigued in on Daniel Gale, 70 to 1, top 5 for him. So those are my 6 selections. Again, quicker show for us. Give us love on all the Mayo Media Network platforms. Means a lot to us. So we'll go back through here. Sean Crocker, 60 to 1. John Catlin, 65 to 1. Oliver Lindell, 66 to 1. And then the trio of long shots, Lucas Bjergaard, 270 to 1. Nicholas Kolzarts, 300 to 1. And then Daniel Gale, 400 to 1. I'm going to mix in some places there on the long shots, of course. So You can, again, follow me on Twitter at SkyHookDFS, Tom Jacobs at TomJacobs93, who will make sure he always gets out some DP World Tour thoughts if he misses the show. But super appreciative of all you guys. Let me know what you thought on the solo edition. Sorry, it's a little bit later than our usual posting, but wanted to make sure to get something out to you guys as soon as we could. Thank you again for all the support. We'll be off next week for the Major Championship and then back for the DP World Tour swing coming out after then. We'll catch you guys again. Thanks so much. Take care.